I'm with CU Medicine psychologist Dr. Liz Chamberlain from the CU Medicine Weight Management and Wellness Clinic and the Anschutz Health and Wellness Center. Dr. Chamberlain, you're a licensed psychologist. You hold a faculty appointment in the Department of Psychiatry at the University of Colorado School of Medicine and are the faculty wellness officer in the Department of Psychiatry. The holidays can bring much joy and also be a stressful time for some. For those who struggle with overeating, the holidays can trigger bouts of overeating and disordered eating. In your professional opinion, why do people struggle with overeating, especially around the holidays?
It's great to see you, Rose. That's such a good question. I wish I knew the answer to it, but I can offer just some ideas professionally from my own experience and from working with a lot of patients as well as research participants about what some of that is. So first of all, I like to think about eating as not just for hunger. As we all know, we eat for lots of different reasons. We often eat to soothe ourselves. We often eat when we're stressed, when we're bored, when we're lonely, when we're tired. So all of those kind of triggers can lead to us eating for reasons other than hunger, and also eating the foods that we think will be soothing. And our brains can be jerks sometimes. Our brains like to remember, hey, you remember the last time you were really stressed and you were worried at that party because you had to go talk to Uncle Bob. Yeah, those cookies really did the trick. So our brains almost set us up, based on just memories of what was soothing before, to reach for some of those foods that we might not necessarily choose consciously if we're able to plan ahead and pause. Sometimes it's not always going to work. So it's complex. There are lots of reasons, and we can talk more about, what people might do to help anticipate some reasons why they might overeat at the holidays or eat foods they don't normally eat. At the same time, it's also really important to acknowledge that there are celebrations a lot of times during the holidays, and we do need to celebrate with friends, with family, coworkers, and have some of the special foods that might be traditional, or that might remind us of our family time or time with friends, or things that we really enjoy eating. So part of it also is being very aware of what we do want to eat and being mindful of what tastes good to us, while at the same time approaching and being willing to be open to, oh, I might overeat at this party, instead of telling ourselves, no, I'll be fine, or I'm not going to eat all the cookies this year. So we can talk about some strategies that might be helpful as we go along today.
What kind of strategies do you give your patients who are seeking help with diet during the holidays?
So first of all, I always like to talk about planning and meal planning and planning our food. That's typically how we tend to approach anything that's coming up, whether it be holidays or any other celebrations. And there are folks who really do want to manage their weight or try to still lose some weight over the holidays, which is no small feat to do. It's really, really difficult. So the first thing that I always encourage people to do is to think about what they're planning. First of all, like what kind of events are being planned, what kind of get-togethers, just to really begin to be open to, instead of pushing it away and saying, no, it's going to be fine. I'll figure it out when I get there. One of the worst things we can do is figuring things out when we get there. So this idea of willpower is really just about people's ability to plan ahead, anticipate possible, temptations, anticipate what some of the events might be that might cause more stress or might trigger some eating for reasons other than hunger, and to plan for what they're going to do instead. So those are really the two biggest pieces. I also encourage people to practice on a daily basis before they get into the holidays or really any kind of celebratory times. Every day to really use a strategy called HALT. And it's used quite a bit in addiction, as well as in food and other meal kind of mindful eating. So HALT stands for 4 things. H is, am I hungry? A is, am I angry? Am I anxious? Am I agitated? L is, am I lonely? And T is, am I tired? And if you're noticing a craving any time of day, really to check in with yourself. Am I hungry? Well, when's the last time I had a meal or a snack? Have I been planning my meals and snacks? Is it time for me to fuel my body? And if it is, great. What do I have planned for something that's going to give me the energy I need to get through the rest of my day? If I'm angry or agitated or anxious, maybe I just need to take a break, maybe move around my house, or even better if I can go outside for a few minutes, and use some mindfulness techniques that are really easy to use, like naming and describing what the sky looks like. Oh, there are 3 clouds in the sky, or the trees are getting much more red. I mean, really even describing the yellows and the reds of the trees this time of year, noticing the breeze on your skin, how that feels, or even closing your eyes and observing, what do I hear right now? Oh, I hear some birds chirping. I hear cars driving by. That can actually lower some of that agitation, which can be really helpful. Some people just go run up and down a flight of stairs or walk up and down a flight of stairs. That can also help. So that's another thing to check in with. Third piece, L, am I lonely? Which happens to a lot of us, especially like at nighttime or after dinner, or just any time of day. We all have different lulls. Knowing when are the times I tend to feel lonely, and is food going to help my loneliness? Probably not, but it's soothing. What else can I do? Can I reach out to a friend? Can I join a group of some sort? Is there some activity that I can do, even if it's around other people who I may not know, just to feel more connected? And then finally, T, am I tired? A lot of times we have so much on our plates. We have so many responsibilities that we juggle. We feel like we have to eat just to do the next thing. Like a lot of times we'll have worked all day, or we'll have taken care of kids all day, prepared meals, gone to the gym, maybe not, maybe walked outside. But at nighttime, we're like, oh, I have to get to that paperwork, or I have to pay the bills, or I have to make my kids this thing for tomorrow. So we think we have to eat just to get that energy, whereas we might be better off just resting, or maybe getting ready for bed at a decent hour, making sure we get our 7 or 8 hours of sleep, instead of eating. So that's another check-in you can do with yourself. When we anticipate stressful holiday events, thinking about, this is the other piece, is really anticipating and planning for what kind of food is going to be there. What am I going to be? What time of day is this party? Like, say it's a holiday event. Making sure that you don't starve yourself all day is so important. Making sure you eat your regular meals, not saving up, to splurge at night. Another thing that happens to a lot of us is we will restrict, or say, I'm not going to eat all day because I really want to have a good time and eat a lot tonight. But when we do that, then we tend to really overeat, and we tend to eat more carbohydrates, more sweets, more breads, because we are so hungry and our bodies have been deprived and we're tired. When we're tired, we want energy. Carbohydrates give us energy, so we're going to naturally crave those. So I would encourage folks to make sure they stick to their regular meal schedule, plan ahead, make sure you eat something nutritious with some balanced protein and healthy carbohydrate, healthy fat, before you go to a party, so that you can check in with yourself. And that's probably most important, planning ahead, knowing what things are going to be at this party, what you really do want to eat, especially if there's like a buffet, and making sure you take the things you really want to eat first, making sure that you've had enough to eat before you go. And also just being aware of what triggers me to eat more. Is it when I see other people eating? Is it when I don't know people? Is it when I'm really having a good time and lose track of what I'm eating? So once you recognize what those cues and signals are, then you can better plan for them. And make sure that you get what is rewarding to you. So for a lot of us, the reason we go to these events is to connect with people. So it's the connection that's important. Having the food is nice, and maybe having something that feels like you're sharing the same food as somebody else feels good. But noticing that the reward is really about the connection can also help you manage. Do I need to eat all of this to feel connected? Or can I have one thing? Can I have a sparkling water with some lime or lemon in it as I'm walking around? And does that feel like I'm able to connect while I'm, making sure that I'm eating and drinking things that are good for me at this time in my life? It takes about 20 minutes for your brain to register fullness from your stomach. So if you're still eating after you've eaten a meal, it's possible you might overeat as well. So also just checking the time and checking in with your body signals and starting to really pay attention to those before we hit those holiday parties. Now is a great time to start doing some mindful eating practices, to start noticing your hunger scale, noticing your signals for hunger and satiety. Just paying closer attention to your body can also help you manage it differently when you do get in those situations. It happens to all of us. So it's not something we can always manage and control. It's something just to have a little bit more awareness of. But what's so important is knowing that if that happens, that we own it and we acknowledge it instead of feeling, a lot of times we'll feel shame or regret, which is understandable, but also thinking about, well, that happened. What led to it? If we're able to turn toward the event and how we felt, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. I kind of feel like a mess. Being compassionate with ourselves for having those missteps or something that felt like a failure to us, because we all have them. Every one of us has been in those situations. We all do it one time or another. In fact, probably lots of times.